Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and Dungeons and Dragons' growing influence in Hollywood. So one of the things that's really interesting is Dungeons and Dragons is getting a wider footprint in Hollywood itself. So first of all, it had a major blockbuster year last year. Uh, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves made $207 million. And you're like, Scott, $207 million isn't a lot of money. It is in 2023. Trust and believe, right? So the number one movie in the world last year was Barbie. It made $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion is garbage money for that's bog standard Marvel blockbuster, right? That's half of a Marvel blockbuster, right? So the reality is, Dungeons and Dragons $207 million in 2023 fully qualifies as a massive blockbuster success, and that's why we're getting a brand new Dungeons and Dragons television show soon, straight for Paramount Plus, right? But what's really interesting, what we're going to talk about today, is how Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves and Dungeons and Dragons, specifically Stranger Things, Hollywood influence, Dungeons and Dragons growing Hollywood influence. So first of all, they just cast the Fantastic Four film, and a lot of people are really excited. Okay, so it's Eben Moss Bachrach, and he is cast as the Thing. He is cousin from Io Edebiri's absolutely brilliant small screen success, The Bear. If you haven't seen The Bear, what you should do is watch my shorts on The Bear. So that show is absolutely brilliant, and it has a lot of lessons for dungeon masters and dragon masters, and every dungeon master and every dragon master should absolutely watch The Bear. It's a phenomenal show. So really, really good, really fantastic show. So the Bear casting made The Thing, right? And then Pedro Pascal, he is going to be Reed Richard, and then Vanessa Kirby from Napoleon, and from Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, which I also has a bunch of shorts on. I have a whole playlist of shorts. Check out the link below. Check out my playlists, right? And check out my Io Edebiri's The Bear playlist, and check out my Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning playlist, both that are specific to Dungeons and Dragons. And so Vanessa Kirby is going to be Susan Storm, okay? And then and Pedro Pascal is going to be Reed Richards. But let's talk about Johnny Storm. Who is going to be Johnny Storm? So when Hollywood said we need to cast a multi-billion-dollar blockbuster, they said, who do we need? We need a dungeon master. And that's who they got. Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things, Eddie Munson. And Joseph Quinn did nothing before Stranger Things, his Eddie Munson 80s dungeon master role, right? But he really showed the world what he could do as Eddie Munson, this amazing 80s dungeon master from Dungeons and Dragons, right? And the world saw Joseph Quinn as an 80s dungeon master, Eddie Munson, and of course said, yeah, of course, this guy belongs in a multi-billion-dollar blockbuster and a relaunch of a major new Marvel property, right? And that came 100%, in my humble opinion, comes directly from Dungeons and Dragons, right? Now, and the reason, so why is Hollywood paying even more attention than ever, right? Why are executives in Hollywood paying attention to Dungeons and Dragons? By the way, scriptwriters have always paid attention to Dungeons and Dragons. Every scriptwriter in Hollywood has played many, many hours of Dungeons and Dragons. But the difference now is executives are paying attention. And the reason why is, if you rub Dungeons and Dragons against something, you become a millionaire. That thing makes millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? What is at the heart of the number one streaming? You know what the number one streaming throw in the world is? It's Stranger Things. It is the #1 new property that is succeeding. It is what every single streamer is trying to recreate, right? Stranger Things is the strongest streaming show in the world, and at the heart of every single season is Dungeons and Dragons. Nothing more, nothing less. Dungeons and Dragons is the thing, right? And it's why Stranger Things is a success. And when Marvel, cast its Fantastic Four, they had to put Eddie Munson, the 1980s Dungeon Master, in it because Dungeons and Dragons is the gold. You rub it up against your thing, and that thing makes millions. E.g. Stranger Things. E.g. Larion. E.g. Critical Role. E.g. Matt Colville. Right? None of those things would be successful without Dungeons and Dragons. None of them. Right? And so there's a huge growing footprint where Dungeons and Dragons' influence in Hollywood is massively growing beyond what it was. And we already had a foothold. Dungeons and Dragons' Hollywood foothold started in 1983. And actually, that was no small thing. Gary Gygax created one of the most successful Saturday morning cartoons in history. And Dungeons and Dragons is one of the reasons why the term Saturday morning cartoon means something, right? It was part of that epic string of successes that really established Dungeons and Dragons. So Dungeons and Dragons' relationship with Hollywood stems from 1983, massive success for the Saturday morning cartoon, massive success with the 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie, massive success with the 2023 Dungeons and Dragons movie. Dungeons and Dragons hits with Hollywood, and now Marvel owes Dungeons and Dragons a debt, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.